Hey y'all, hey, it's JJ Conway. Welcome to Building Wealth Together, where our goal is to help you walk in abundance and leave a legacy. It's Mindset Monday, where we take the best teachings on mindset, motivation, and leadership and apply them to your life. This helps you get past the past and grow forward into abundance. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, it's JJ Conway. Ooh, my audio says I'm overpowering there. Let me try drawing back just a little bit. Let me try that again. For those of you just joining me, this is JJ Conway. I want to welcome you to Building Wealth Together. This is our Power Hour every Monday, 11:30 Central, 12:30 Eastern. We are looking at moving Power Hour up to 11, and we're debating whether to do it as a daily broadcast or whether we move it to Wealth Building Wednesday. I really like having the Mindset Monday podcast, but I find that the podcast gets a lot more downloads and participation now that we've made it a podcast than the actual call-in show. So give me some feedback on that. Let me know what you guys want to do, because I'm all about optimizing. And if I can record this, at night, the night before, and launch it Monday morning, I'd rather do that if that's what more of you would prefer, okay? So we're going to give that some thought. We are going to continue with the new edition of the Wealth Building Wednesdays live in the Facebook group. So if you're not already a member of the Building Wealth Together Facebook group, go ahead and join it. Or you can also join our Teachable School, which is buildingwealthtogether.com. However, one thing I have found about Teachable as a platform is that the emails I send to you don't necessarily send when I tell them to send. So you might get an email that's, 2 hours later says, hey, we're going live in 10 minutes. Well, that doesn't do you much good. So I'm still working out a solution to that. But in the meantime, if you want to catch the Wealth Building Wednesdays and the Fireside Chat live, make sure you are subscribed to my Facebook page, or you are subscribed to the Facebook group, or you have joined the Facebook group. That's probably the right way to say it, okay? All right. Also, you know what? I'm just going to throw this out there. Everybody knows that I'm in the middle of retiring from the military. I am officially retired from the military. Whoop, whoop. All right, y'all. This is my first duty day as a non-military member, and although they can reach back anytime they want and get me back on duty, that's part of the contract, I am officially retired, and I got the email today about my DD-214 will be ready any moment now. And I can't wait to be covered by that DD-214 blanket. Oh, that's going to be a celebration, y'all. It's almost like I'm holding my breath till I have the paper in hand. Anywho, because I'm making a lot of transition, I have set up a new way of doing texts, okay? So I'm going to give you my new number live on the podcast because I want to make sure I catch everybody. My new number is 254-274-3055. What? JJ is giving her number out over the podcast? Well, look, there's some registration you have to do in order for your text to get to me. So I'm not worried about the spammers because they're not going to bother to register. But you go ahead and text my new number, 254-274-3055. And that way, when you have a question, well, you got to register first, all right? That way, when you have a question, you send your question right to me, and I'll be able to answer you and help you get on your way to dumping debt and building wealth. I am super excited for this next phase of my life, and because you're coming along with me, I'm super excited for the next phase of your life. Oh, y'all, we are building wealth together. And when I started on this journey, when I went from having done for about 15 years before I went from volunteer to paid, and I went from volunteer financial coaching at different agencies like Our Daily Bread or Virginia Cooperative Extension, I went from doing all of that only for free through volunteer work to charging people for their time. I had no idea how many more people were going to actually be successful. Now, for those of you who are cheap like me, you might wonder why a coach would be celebrating, especially a financial coach who helps people get out of debt, why you might find me celebrating helping people get out of debt by charging them money when they're in debt, okay? This is because I learned that most people don't have the drive and don't have the motivation to take advantage of a free gift. That sounds pretty horrible, and it doesn't sound very nice. I'm not trying to be judgy. I'm just trying to be real. How many free courses have I signed up for that I still haven't taken? But the ones that I paid big money for, oh, you better believe I'm on those mastermind calls every week because I paid my money and I made my commitment. And I think a lot of people are like me in that respect today, okay? Now, I know there's a couple of you out there. You're like I was. I was able to get out of debt reading books, and Larry Burkett gave me his first little cassette tape class. I couldn't even afford the $8. And so he gave it to me with the promise that I would help teach somebody else with it. And I did. And I kept teaching people and realized I had a knack for it, right? Like I should have kept it. I gave it away to one of our church members. I probably should have kept it because that would have been like a collector's item now, right? But I remember that. I remember his kindness and his graciousness to me in my time of need and how I used his principles to get out of debt. And I thought when I started on this journey that everybody was going to be like that. Like they were going to take the free gift and it was going to change their lives. But what I have found, both as a content creator who launches classes with regularity and who leads people through financial coaching, is that most of us, we're not going to do the work unless we have some skin in the game. All right. So today I want to encourage you. If you feel like you are not reaching the next level that you should reach with your debt elimination or with your investments or with your business, to reach out and bring somebody like me onto your team so that you can begin to move forward. There's always going to be some initial commitment required, whether that's a time commitment or a monetary commitment. But that's going to be so that your mentor, your coach, whoever it is, knows that you are serious and that you're really going to put into action the principles that you're taught. I find it hilarious how many people want free financial coaching from me and they will not complete the 3 Easy Steps class. Y'all, that's a 3-video class. This is not the topic I wanted to talk on today, but I guess somebody needs to hear it. That is a 3-video class with like 2 or 3 minutes each video, and yet people still won't complete it. We have to begin to look strategically. If you keep making the same mistakes, you're going to keep getting the same results. You keep doing the same things you've been doing, you're going to keep getting the same things you've been getting. All right. And so I'm here to help you push past that. And that's why I'm really excited about this series that we've been on. I think I posted earlier today that we were actually going to wrap it up. But the more I look at the content, we may need one more Mindset Monday on this one, because it is such a powerful concept. Now, I am not just going to qualify. Okay. I am not at all insinuating that our entrepreneurship, our parenthood, our day-to-day 9-to-5 jobs, our stresses are the same as what law enforcement goes through, okay? So for any law enforcement or family members of law enforcement, that I am not at all trying to say that what I go through as a work-from-home mom who, I work about 4 hours a day. I pick my kids up. I spend this is so funny because like a month ago, my life was totally different, right? But I spend my days playing with my kids and, hanging out with my husband and taking care of the house and all of those things that, a year ago I would have laughed at, right? Because I never saw it as a possibility. I had no idea how happy my family would be. But even in this lower stress environment compared to where I was a year ago in the military, active duty, especially when I got the orders to go be in Kuwait within 10 days, like you had 10 days to move your kid across country and get in theater, right? Like that's serious stress. And even that does not compare to what I observed with law enforcement when I went to the Citizens Police Academy, okay? But what I've discovered is the same things that they talked about in that Citizens Police Academy, the same physiological changes, the same mental restrictions, all of those things that they talk about happening when they fall under high stress. I found that a lot of my clients are going through the same things. And so if we can learn some of these strategies that the law enforcement folks use, then maybe we ourselves can introduce more calm into our lives and begin to be more effective. We can be more effective business people. We can be more effective parents. We can be more effective partners. We can be more effective volunteers. We can be more effective, fill in the blank. All right. And so last time we talked about the hypervigilance roller coaster, and we talked about how this tendency of being in that state of hypervigilance is actually really desirable because you're thinking clearer, everything else kind of just fades into the background. You've got all this extra energy, you're alive, you're alert, you're energetic, you're involved. And some people even find that they're even more humorous in those kinds of pressurized situations, right? And what we don't realize is that we get in that on duty, overinvested kind of state, but we as people don't allow ourselves enough recovery time. And we know we're not allowing ourselves enough recovery time because we find ourselves tired, detached, isolated, apathetic, and we don't allow ourselves enough recharge time. And so what happens is we stop engaging in the activities that help us emotionally. And then this begins a imbalance. And the first place it shows up is in our personal life. And so here are some symptoms. We kind of started on this last week, but let's go ahead and just, for those who are new, let's just go ahead and cover it. Here are some symptoms of you being on this hypervigilance roller coaster. You're on this on duty, alive, alert, energetic cycle. You come home and you're tired, detached, isolated, and apathetic. Okay. Here is the effect. Here are the things to look for. Okay. So one, you find that when you go home, you desire social isolation. Isolation? You don't want to be around anybody. All right. Let's just say it that way. You don't want to be around anybody. And I find this real interesting because my husband and I are both type A, get her done kind of people. I mean, he's real calm. When you meet him, he's real calm and he just goes with the flow, kind of stoic a little bit. But that's not all that's going on inside. He's got a very analytical brain. And so I thought he was this chill dude. And I found out, no, the reason he's the middle school coordinator for this and the regional coordinator for that is because he really does have a drive. He just learned how to be relaxed around other people. But part of it is when you have such a high drive at work, if you don't learn how to balance that out, you come home and you don't really want to be around anybody. And so he and I had this situation where he moved to a new school and I moved to a new military job, and we were both in two separate states. So you would think that when we were able to come together, we would be so happy, but we just didn't want to be around anybody. Now tell me what kind of sense that makes. I mean, what kind of sense does that make? You get married, you have kids, you want to go out and conquer the world, and you want to come home, and you don't want to be around anybody. You don't want to be bothered with your spouse. You don't want to be bothered with your kids. You don't want to be bothered with the dog. Somebody shut that yapping dog up, right? That's the life. And you stop and think about it. But we chose this life. We chose this spouse. We wanted to have kids. We wanted that yapping dog. Now, I'm not down on dogs. I actually want to get a dog one day, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like the goldfish looks at you mad and you just don't want to be bothered, right? You're on the hypervigilance roller coaster. And the thing is we have to pay attention to this because at the end of the day, when you take off that uniform, when you take off those Christian Louboutins, when you put down all the fanciness of life and all the wealth that you've built up, most of us want a family to be there with us. But if we don't catch this early enough, we will find ourselves alone. All right? In fact, I remember when I was going through TAP. This is the transition class they give you when you're about to retire from the military. When I was going through TAP, they said there was a chief there. He said, he was a senior. He made chief, and I was surprised that he was retiring. And he said, well, I realized I was going to have to stay in 3 more years to get my high 3, and I saw that all the other chiefs were divorced, and they were all miserable, and their families were all miserable, and that's just not the life that I want to have. And he made the decision to go ahead and retire. I think he actually put on chief. I think he just doesn't get to retire with the chief's paycheck. I'm not quite sure how that works. I should be because I'm retired. But, I never paid that much attention. I knew I had mine. Ooh, I'm telling on myself today, okay? So that's one of the things that we have to understand is that a lot of the people that we idolize, everything may not be glittery at home. It may be glittery and great out in public, but you got to look at the whole life. You got to look at the whole package. Okay, you got to look at the whole enchilada, not just the cheesy goodness on the top. All right, because it can have cheesy goodness on the top and it can be made with rotten meat on the inside. All right. So we want to look at the whole enchilada, and we want to make sure that as we build wealth and as we build these empires and as we build these companies and as we achieve our goals, that our family is right there with us. All right. Another sign that you are on the hypervigilance roller coaster is that you don't want to have conversations about anything that is not police related, or in the case of most of us listening to this podcast, entrepreneur related relationship. Oh boy, my words are just not, sorry, that was loud. My words are just not cooperating today. And the worst part about it is I'm recording this live, so I can't even pause and edit that out, right, for the podcast. That might be another reason that we might move on with the Mindset Monday, so I can pause and record and edit out all my flubs and flaws. But that's okay. Y'all love me anyway. I know. But here's the thing. I had a rude awakening with this not long ago, and it's a running joke between me and my son now. In fact, if those of you who saw my recent Steelers post about, hey, my son asked, hey mom, why don't you ever do anything for fun? You know, everything you do has to be educational or about your business. And I'm like, I do things for fun. I watch the Steelers beat the Ravens. That's a lot of fun, right? Well, so I'm sitting there like, okay, what is the problem with this kid? And he's like, everything with you just want to talk about business. You just want to talk about personal growth. You just want to talk about money. You don't ever want to talk about anything fun. And we don't like personal growth. We like Beyblade. And I was like, well, Beyblade has absolutely no educational value. Well, you liked Avatar. We watched all of Avatar together, and you didn't say anything about educational value for Avatar. Well, Avatar has a lot of educational value, has a lot of really good points, and it explores a lot of really deep issues. You just didn't realize it because you're so young. That's why I liked Avatar. It was a great storytelling with great principles and great challenges of growing up, And he didn't know that. It was just a fun show to him. And so it really challenged me when we had this conversation a long time ago. It really challenged me to look at my life and evaluate, have I become the kind of person that all I care about is what I'm working on? Because if all you care about is what you're working on, there's a whole world of people out there who aren't what you're working on. And it's really easy to say, well, you know what, my son and my husband and my little one, they should all come into John Maxwell. They should all come into Dave Ramsey. They should all get certified as coaches because they could go out and change the world with me. And you can fill in the blank with that. But you know what the honest truth is? My husband is a gifted educator. He has a way with middle school children and high school children. And I'll tell you what, I didn't really appreciate it until my oldest went through middle school. And now he's in high school, but I didn't appreciate my husband's talent and his gift. I honestly did not. And so I at least knew he had a gift. I'm at least thankful for that. Like, I'm so thankful I had met my husband before I went into paid financial coaching, because otherwise I think I would have done like a lot of other coaches. I think I would have tried to take every person who came to me and turn them into an entrepreneur. Like, oh, you teach high school history? No. What you really need to do is monetize that and create a course. Like, no. That's what a lot of coaches try to teach you to do because we value entrepreneurship, right? But that's actually not everybody's strong suit, and that's not the best use of their talents and their abilities, right? And so I had to really come to terms with what was happening here. My husband would never have married a woman who only talked about business day in or day out. He married somebody who was cute and was fun and would go to the football games with him, look cute and be fun. And I mean, degrees aside, him getting a chuckle out of the gate guard saluting me aside, the bottom line why Chris Conway chose me is I was cute and I was fun. And let me tell you, as my now 15-year-old so aptly pointed out a couple years ago, Mom was not being cute nor fun. All she was about was business. And so even if you're not in as extreme a career as law enforcement, you and I both know that as entrepreneurs, we tend to make our business the main thing. What we got to make is our family, our priorities, our number one thing needs to remain the main thing. Many of you, like me, you say that God is first in your life, you say that family is next in your life, and then your business or yourself, and then your business, or however you do it, right? But most of us, if I ask everybody that comes to my classes, I'd say about 95% of them, whether they're Christian or of another faith, will say God first, family, God and then family, like my cup, God, family, Steelers, right? God, family, and then whatever else is important that day, right? But we very rarely live that out. We rarely live that out in our choices of how we fill our schedule, and we rarely live that out in our choices of how we spend our money. Okay, so you want to look for that, okay? You want to pay attention to your conversation when your conversation that uplifts, excites, and encourages you and gets you going is only about things related to your business, to your livelihood, okay? Because that's a sign that you are slipping in and out of this hypervigilance roller coaster, but since you may not know you're on it, you may not know enough to drop down and let yourself recover. In fact, you might think, like I was thinking, that you're actually doing a better thing. Well, of course I'm going to always be about business because I'm always about my Father's business, and my Father's excellence in business. What's my group? Saints in Business. I think it's my excellence in business is my Father's business, right? Like, oh yeah, I'm all about my business. I'm going to get this stuff taken care of. Ha ha, you silly people watching TV. I'm better than you. Ha ha, I'm doing work. But that's not true, y'all. That doesn't make us better. And in fact, unless we have been that way for a while and we like being that way and the people around us like being that way, like our spouse and our family, we might find ourselves very soon alone. And guess what? A lot of people who are about their business at work really don't want to come home and be about their business at home. And so you may have a very, very hard time replacing that family. I had someone today talk to me about the first marriage being a starter marriage. I don't buy into that. I believe we choose to grow together or we choose to grow apart. And I'm choosing to grow together. All right. Another one that kind of alluded to this in the others is reduced interaction with friends or acquaintances who aren't in your field. So for police, it would be you don't really like spending time with non-police friends and acquaintances anymore because officers want to spend their time with other officers. Now, there's some careers where this makes sense. Like for example, I'm a minister. For a lot of my life, I have pretty much hung out with other ministers, other people who are called to the ministry and called to live by the certain standard that I'm called to live by. In fact, I get really uncomfortable in spiritual, social situations that are not ministry related, but are with other people who are supposed to be spiritual, but they're not in ministry. Or they are in ministry, but their ministry is it neglects some of the important tenets of my ministry. I don't know a delicate way to say that. Let me just be blunt with it, okay? Because I want to make sure you guys understand what I'm saying. Like when you're a holiness minister who preaches living a righteous life, I know immediately that not everybody that I enjoy spending time with is called to live that life. I remember the day my stepdad was driving me somewhere and he said, Mom asked me to bring you with me so I could talk some sense into you because she thinks you've gone way off the deep end with all this holiness stuff. And I was like, I understand where you guys are coming from, but you know what? I want to be able to lay hands on the sick and then be healed. And I want to be able to have the Holy Spirit speak to me and give me a word for somebody's life and have it be life-changing for them. And I can't have that kind of power with God if I'm constantly stuffing my head with all the secular TV and all the secular music and all the things of this world. I could if I didn't have a day job and I had time to pray and study for several hours a day, but I don't have that. So in the little free time that I have, I don't want to clutter up my mind with things that I'm going to have to pray out later. Because when you're sick, I want to be able to pray for you and the Lord heal you. And he kind of looked at me. He said, okay, fair enough. Let's go have some fun. Wherever it was we were going, I don't remember. But it was really a defining moment for me because I didn't realize how I was coming across to people. And so there are certainly situations where you're going to hang out with other people and you're naturally going to want to hang out with other people who understand your lifestyle and your choices. And so in my case, I love hanging out with other Holy Ghost filled ministers who also want to be a vessel for God to prophesy, to give a word of wisdom, a word of knowledge, to lay hands on the sick and people be recovered. People who are seeking after that, even if they disagree with my lifestyle, and in fact, most do. Most people that I meet, even if they're preachers, they think I live too strict a life, which it cracks me up because me and my kids have the most fun of anybody I know, right? right? But they at least understand why I do what I do, and they understand that I have to work out my soul salvation and my walk with God, with me and God, and they're tolerant of my choice to be that way. And what I have found is in our society that is increasingly calling itself tolerant, we are not a very tolerant people. We're only tolerant of people who are as cool as us. And so a lot of times, so I can understand that, because a lot of times when I'm in situations with other people in other ministries where they don't believe in those kinds of things and they don't care about those kinds of things, or they think that's a little too Christian and why don't you just lighten up, I have a very difficult time. I choose not to spend any more time with people in that bucket than I have to outside of the casual interactions that we do for business. I don't like spending spiritual time with non-spiritual people who aren't tolerant of my spiritual choices. I guess that's the best way to say it, okay? I like spending business time with all kinds of people because I always learn from all kinds of people. But my inner circle time, my recharge time, now you got to add something spiritually to my life, or at least not take away from what I am. Well, that is really a ramble I did not mean to go off on, okay? I guess what I was really trying to say is I'm not painting a broad brush here, but this is a big problem. Okay, if you've got an extenuating circumstance, like you're a minister that likes to keep yourself clear in your head so you can lay hands on the sick and be healed. Okay, I get it when you only really want to hang out with other ministers. Now, if you only ever hang out with other ministers, you are never going to actually reach the rest of the world. And that's why I think you do need to spend time with people who are not of like faith, right? You need to get out there and show God's love to people. But if your inner circle time is only other ministers, I get that. The problem is when we as entrepreneurs, or we as law enforcement, or we as first responders, or we as military, we only choose to spend time with people who have our same vocation, because then we feel like they understand us, they get where we're coming from, they understand the day in and day out of our job, they understand the stresses. We don't have to explain all that. We don't have to adapt to all that. We can just be who we are because they're being the same way. Okay, that's a natural human tendency that will stifle your growth. Another big one, is procrastination in decision-making not related to work. And this is one of the ways that I know that some of the people who are close to me are stressed out. Now me, y'all have gathered, I'm a pretty vocal person, right? Like if you ask me a question, I'm going to give you an answer, or I'm going to tell you I don't care. And when I tell you I don't care, I genuinely don't care. Because if I do care, I'm going to tell you I care. You ask me where we want to go for dinner, and I don't want to go to Taco Bell, I will say I want to go to Wendy's, I want to go to Chick-fil-A, or I won't say Taco Bell. And if you bring up Taco Bell, I will be very quick to let you know what, I'm not feeling Taco Bell today. Can we try this or this or that? But if I really don't care where we're going, I'll be like, I really don't care. Pick something. Give me 3 options to choose from, and I'll pick one, That's me. That's not most people, okay? But most people kind of have an idea of most of what they want on a general day in and day out basis, okay? So if you find yourself not making decisions on things that you yourself initiate, you just want other people to make the decision for you, that's a sign. Like the example that Dr. Gilmartin gives in this chapter, one of the examples he gives is, asking, you go into the store and you're buying groceries and they ask you paper or plastic and you don't even want to make that decision, okay? You just let people surprise you, or you just kind of grunt along. And this is a really big thing. So, sometimes we think we're actually answering, but we're not. We're just kind of going, that's all the people hear is, And we think we're doing the bare minimum, but actually we are so overloaded that our body is not cooperating, okay? But what's happening is we are abdicating ourselves of any responsibility to make a decision. Where do you want to eat? I don't care. Surprise me. What do you want to watch? I don't care. Surprise me. It's really like, well, who cares? It doesn't really matter in the great scheme of things. Well, it matters to the person that you're interacting with, Now, a big one, and I think we talked about this last week, was cynicism. Okay? I don't know, this is kind of awkward because our society really values cynicism. But cynicism all the time is a sign that we are on that hypervigilance roller coaster and that we need to address the problem. Okay. Another one that Dr. Gilmartin gives us is infidelity, because there's a high and an excitement associated with infidelity. And another symptom is being not involved in your kids' needs and activities. You know, a lot of times this military, business, CEOs, all that, we tend to abdicate our responsibilities for the family to the spouse who doesn't have the high impact career, the quote unquote high impact career. Okay. And so, you know, this is a very important symptom. You chose to have children. For children to be properly reared, to have the confidence and the self-assurance they need to go out and be productive members of society, they need both parents, right? But when you come home, you're so overloaded or so overwhelmed or you're so dissatisfied with the home life compared to the excitement of your work life, right? That you don't even want to have anything to do with them. And so that's a sign. It's a sign that something is breaking or may even be broken. It's a sign that we need to pay better attention to what our body needs to recharge and give our body what it needs. Now, another one, and this one I definitely identified with. You guys have heard my story of getting divorced and not even knowing who I was anymore. Like everything in my life up until then had really kind of been at the whim of other people, because I found out very quickly I was a weirdo, and weirdos don't like the same things everybody else likes to like. So when I would go to someone's house, it was whatever they wanted to watch, or go over to somebody else's house, it's whatever they wanted to play. My whole life up until that divorce had basically been kind of catering to my ex-husband. And I didn't even know if you would have asked me what kind of cookie I wanted you to buy me, if you wanted to treat me, I wouldn't have been able to tell you. What kind of movies did I like? Like, what was my favorite movie? I didn't even know what my favorite movie was, you know? And so sometimes when we've been in a hypervigilant state for too long, or we've been too stressed out for too long, or we've been working too hard to try and change things without actually changing the root cause of the matter, we find ourselves in what's called the I used to syndrome. I used to do this, I used to do this, I used to do that. And so a lot of times the only things that we realize or that we value is what we're doing in business. Well, what do you like to do for fun? Oh, well, I just closed this $2 million deal. Okay, but what do you like to do for fun? Fun? Who has time for fun? You know, what do you like to do? What do you like to do for fun? Well, I work this shift. I like being a cop here with this department. Okay, that's great, but when was the last time you actually did something that was fun? Oh, I don't know. It's been a while. Okay? And so what we find is our lives are full of I used to's. I used to fish. I used to sew. I used to go to church. I used to go camping. I used to see friends. I used to visit my folks. I used to sing in the choir. I used to garden. Okay? And if we don't do anything about it, it deteriorates into further loss. I used to be married. I used to have a personal life. This is a symptom because it shows us what has been lost out of a life spent pursuing the career, the vocation. All right, so we're going to wrap up for today. I want to appreciate everybody who's been on the line with me today. I know we went a little bit over. As we continue to improve Building Wealth Together, one of the things that I do like to do is to try to keep Mindset Monday down to about 30 minutes. And so I think we're going to have one, maybe two more sessions on this, but I encourage you to come back next time as we start to talk about the long-term effects of hypervigilance. Now, we gave you some of the long-term outcomes in this session, you know, things like divorce, things like loss of joy, loss of purpose, okay? But we're going to look at the long-term effects on the body and on your future, and then hopefully give you some strategies to overcome. I'm JJ Conway. I want to thank you so much for joining me on this journey of building wealth together. I'm here to help you dump debt, build wealth, and leave a legacy. And I know that if you put these principles into practice, that you will go forth and change the world. Y'all take care and be blessed. Love the podcast? Be sure to like, subscribe, and forward to 3 friends. You can ask a question or take a life-changing class at buildingwealthtogether.com. Now, go walk in abundance and leave a legacy.